Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story sounds almost unbelievable, but the implications are very real. According to multiple strategic assessments and the growing reaction across Europe, Vladimir Putin has just received some of the worst geopolitical news he's faced in years. Moscow is stunned. Russian commentators are scrambling for explanations. And at the center of it all is Poland, a country many once underestimated, but which has now executed what many analysts are calling a brilliant, perfectly timed move that reshapes the balance of power in Eastern Europe. This is not about a single weapon delivery or one dramatic speech. This is about strategy, long-term planning, and a cold, calculated decision that strikes at the heart of Russia's influence, military confidence, and regional dominance. To understand why the Kremlin is so shaken, we need to understand what Poland has been quietly doing, why it matters now, and why Moscow didn't believe Warsaw would actually go this far. For decades, Russia viewed Eastern Europe through an outdated lens. In the Kremlin's world, countries like Poland were former satellites, nations that might complain, protest, or align with the West politically, but would never fully break free from Russia's shadow in military and strategic terms. That assumption has now collapsed. Poland is no longer acting like a buffer state. Poland is acting like a frontline power, and that changes everything. What makes this moment so devastating for Moscow is not just the move itself, but the timing. Russia is already under immense pressure. Its military credibility has been questioned. Its economy is strained. Its diplomatic leverage is shrinking. And just when the Kremlin needs stability on its western flank, Poland has effectively turned that flank into a fortress. From Moscow's perspective, this feels like betrayal layered on top of strategic humiliation. Let's be very clear about something. Poland's decision was not impulsive. This was not an emotional response. This was the result of years of planning, investment, and coordination with allies. The brilliance lies in how quietly it was prepared and how decisively it was executed. For years, Polish leaders warned that Russia's ambitions did not stop at borders, treaties, or historical promises. While many Western European capitals debated, hesitated, and hoped for de-escalation, Poland prepared for escalation. Not because it wanted war, but because it understood history. Poland's history with Russia is not theoretical. It is personal. It is written in blood, partitions, invasions, and occupations. That historical memory has shaped Polish strategic thinking in a way that Moscow either ignored or dismissed. And now that dismissal has come back to haunt the Kremlin. The terrible news for Putin is not just that Poland has strengthened itself. It's that Poland has done so in a way that permanently alters Russia's military calculations. What once looked like a manageable NATO frontier now looks like a hardened, technologically advanced, highly motivated defensive wall. From Moscow's point of view, this is a nightmare scenario. Why? Because Russia's military doctrine relies heavily on intimidation, speed, and the threat of overwhelming force. It works best when opponents are divided, hesitant, or underprepared. Poland's move undermines all three of those assumptions at once. First, intimidation no longer works the same way. Poland has demonstrated that it is not afraid of Russian threats, rhetoric, or nuclear posturing. When Warsaw acts, it does so calmly, legally, and with alliance backing. Second, speed is no longer an advantage. Poland has invested heavily in early warning systems, rapid mobilization, and integrated defense networks. Any hypothetical Russian action near Poland would now face immediate detection and coordinated response. Third, overwhelming force loses its psychological impact when the opponent is prepared to absorb, counter, and sustain pressure. Poland's transformation sends a message: we are ready, and we are not alone. This is where Moscow's disbelief comes in. Russian political culture often assumes that smaller states will eventually back down when pressure increases. That assumption may have worked in the past. It does not work here. Poland has done the opposite. The more pressure Russia applies to the region, the stronger and more determined Poland becomes. And this creates a dangerous paradox for the Kremlin. Any attempt to intimidate Poland now only justifies Poland's actions further. Any attempt to punish Poland risks triggering a broader alliance response. And any attempt to ignore Poland allows Warsaw to continue reshaping the regional balance unchecked. In other words, Putin has very few good options left. Inside Russia, reactions have reportedly ranged from disbelief to anger. Pro-Kremlin commentators are asking how this was allowed to happen. Military analysts are questioning whether Russia's Western defenses are sufficient. Political insiders are privately admitting that Poland has become a problem Russia can no longer sideline. This is not just about Poland as a country. It's about what Poland represents. Poland represents the failure of Russia's intimidation strategy in Europe. It represents the success of long-term alliance building. And most importantly, it represents a future where Russia is no longer the dominant military reference point in Eastern Europe. That is a devastating blow to Putin's vision of regional control. For years, the Kremlin invested heavily in projecting strength, military parades, weapons demonstrations, aggressive rhetoric. But strength is not just about appearances. It's about credibility. And Poland's move exposes a painful truth for Moscow. Credibility is slipping. When a country like Poland openly and confidently reshapes its defense posture, it signals to others that Russia is not as untouchable as it claims. That signal does not stop at Poland's borders. It echoes across the Baltic states, Central Europe, and beyond. And that is where the real danger lies for the Kremlin. Because once the fear breaks, the system changes. Other countries start asking hard questions. Why should we limit ourselves out of fear? Why should we hesitate if Poland doesn't? Why should we accept Russian pressure as inevitable? This is how influence erodes, not in one dramatic collapse, but through a series of confident moves by states that decide they've had enough. From a strategic perspective, Poland's decision also complicates Russia's military planning in profound ways. Resources must be redistributed, scenarios must be rewritten, assumptions must be abandoned, and all of this comes at a time when Russia is already stretched thin. Military planners hate uncertainty. Poland has just introduced a massive amount of it. What was once a predictable frontier is now a dynamic, highly capable defense zone backed by strong alliances and modern technology. That means higher costs for Russia, higher risks, and lower chances of success in any confrontation. For Putin, whose leadership image relies heavily on control and predictability, this is deeply unsettling. And here's the part Moscow truly can't believe. Poland didn't act alone, but it didn't wait either. This was not a move imposed by allies. It was a sovereign decision, aligned with allies, but driven by national interest. That distinction matters. It shows agency. It shows confidence. And it shows that Poland is no longer asking for permission to protect itself. In the Kremlin's world, that is unacceptable. Russia prefers a Europe where decisions are delayed, debated endlessly, and watered down. Poland's decisiveness disrupts that model. It sets a precedent that others may follow. And once that precedent spreads, Russia's leverage diminishes further. This is why the reaction in Moscow has been so intense. It's not just anger, it's fear. Fear that Russia is losing its ability to shape outcomes in its own neighborhood. Fear that its threats no longer carry the same weight. Fear that the era of unquestioned dominance in Eastern Europe is over. And perhaps most frightening of all for the Kremlin, fear that this shift may be irreversible. Poland's move is not something that can be easily undone. It is embedded in infrastructure, training, alliances, and doctrine. This is not a temporary posture. This is a new reality. For Putin, who has spent years trying to reverse what he sees as the geopolitical losses of the past, this is a bitter pill to swallow. Instead of regaining influence, he is watching it slip further away. The irony is that Russia's own actions helped accelerate this outcome. Aggression breeds resistance, pressure breeds preparation, and intimidation, when overused, loses its power. Poland understood that lesson early, and now Moscow is paying the price for underestimating it. As we look ahead, one thing is clear. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new phase in European security, one where smaller states act with greater confidence, alliances function with greater unity, and Russia faces a strategic environment far less forgiving than before. Putin has indeed received terrible news, not because of one dramatic announcement, but because of what that announcement represents. A shift, a challenge, and a clear message from Poland to Moscow and the world. We are ready, we are watching, and we are not backing down. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Because the geopolitical chessboard is changing